Autonomic nervous system. So before we talk about autonomic nervous system, let's first talk about nervous system. So the nervous system is divided into two, which is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So central nervous system is located in the brain and the spinal cord. Meanwhile, the peripheral nervous system is located outside of the brain and also in the spinal cord. So, autonomic nervous system. The ANS acts on smooth muscles and glands. So, this controls and regulates the heart, respiratory system, GI tract, bladder, eyes, and glands. The ANS is involuntary, meaning person has little or no control. Meanwhile, the somatic is voluntary. So, person has control but only in the skeletal muscle. So, the ANS has two sets of neurons, the afferent and the efferent. So, the afferent neurons are sensory neurons. So, this sends impulses to the CNS for interpretation. Meanwhile, the efferent receives impulses or information from the brain and transmits from the spinal cord to the effector organ cells. Two branches of this is the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So the functions of ANS. So as mentioned earlier, there are two divisions. So the sympathetic division functions in action requiring quick responses or fight or flight. Meanwhile, parasympathetic division functions with actions that do not require immediate reaction. So sympathetic division, this can be triggered in the face of a perceived threat. For example, a person who is terrified of heights might begin to experience the acute stress response when he is to go to the top floor of a building to attend a meeting. And in the parasympathetic division, example for this is salivation. So the PSNS stimulates production of saliva, which contains enzymes to help your food digest. So two subsystems of ANS. So as I mentioned earlier, sympathetic nervous system allows body to function under stress, fight or flight, and primes body for intense skeletal muscle activity. And parasympathetic nervous system has the maintenance function, rest and digest, and counterbalances sympathetic function. Sympathetic and parasympathetic effects on body tissues. So as you can see in the eyes, the sympathetic response is it dilates the pupils, while in the parasympathetic response it constricts. In the lungs, it dilates bronchioles. Parasympathetic constricts bronchioles and increases secretion. In the heart, it increases heart rate, and in the parasympathetic response, decreases heart rate. In the blood vessels, constricts blood vessels, dilates blood vessels. Gastrointestinal, it relaxes smooth muscles of gastrointestinal tract and increases peristalsis. Yes. And the bladder relaxes bladder muscles and constricts bladder. Uretus, it relaxes ureterine muscle. Yes. The salivary gland, it only increases salivation in the parasympathetic response. So comparison of the somatic and autonomic nervous system. So in the sensory neuron, somatic nervous system, the somatic senses and special senses. So somatic senses are to detect touch, pain, pressure, temperature, and tension on the skin and in the internal organs, while the special senses are sensation of taste, smell, hearing, and sight. So, in the autonomic nervous system, mainly from interoceptors receptors located in the blood vessels, visceral organ, nervous system, and that monitor interval environment, effector, skeletal muscle, as mentioned earlier, and in the autonomic nervous system, cardiac, smooth muscles, and glands. So, control of motor neurons. So, voluntary control from cerebral cortex with contribution from basal ganglia, yes, cerebellum, brainstem, and spinal cord. And autonomic nervous system, involuntary control from hypothalamus, lim- limbic system, brainstem, and spinal cord. It's also limited control from cerebral cortex. That would be all. Thank you.